my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious It has begun!
The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
It's time for the week's latest news in tech, gaming, movies, TV, and all things geeky. Welcome to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. This is a brand new show right here on Radio SLCC, but will also be done as a podcast. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. Let's just give a quick overview of what this show is going to be like. For those who actually used to follow me on the Evening of Geekery, this is basically what this has become. For those who are new, welcome. We're happy to have you. And here's how this is going to work. For the first 15 minutes of the hour, we're going to be talking about the latest week's stories in tech for the first hour, and then for the next hour, we're actually going to have a little bit more entertainment, movies, TV, things like that going on. And then we're also going to go into a review at the bottom of the hour, which is going to be done with wonderful partners that I've been able to work with from the globe at SLCC. So I'm very happy to introduce them at that time. And then at the end of the hour, we're going to be talking about roughly my opinions, as well as if my partner's willing to join me, what our opinions are on the stories of the week, and then we will just go into the next hour. So let's just go ahead and get started, everybody, shall we? All right, story number one. This is probably about a week old, but I felt like it had to be talked about, and here is why. Nintendo had a conference basically explaining to their shareholders they're not doing so well. The bottom line is that they did not make anything resembling a profit that they thought they were going to be making for the fiscal year, especially in the holidays. They were hoping to sell a lot more Wii U's. They did not. So unfortunately, they had to take the following measures. First of all of the high-ups of Nintendo, so including Satoru Iwata, Shigeru Miyamoto, a couple of others, have taken salary cuts in order to appease the shareholders as well as be able to continue to do what they love to do. They've also bought back a lot of the shares, especially from the previous owner, and I'm probably going to murder his name, Yamauchi-san. They bought back a lot of his shares to help satisfy the shareholders and to be able to kind of maintain a steady budget that they can work with over the year. They are also looking into other ways to make money, one of which was, and it just made me cringe when I heard it, but opinions are for later in the hour. The bottom line is that they are looking to make a innovation in the health market. So it sounds to me like, or the way that they kind of made it sound like, is that they wanted to create a non-wearable health hardware device that you could use. That sounds to me like, or it sounds to a lot of people that have been speculating that it's basically a return of the Vitality sensor from 2008 that just got laughed out of E3, but that's one of their ideas. The other one is that they're finally, I don't know why it took them so long to do this, but it did. They are now going to establish the Nintendo Network as their kind of adaptation of Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network. So everything will be bound on an on-demand service instead of bound per consoles. Everybody remembers that this was like the biggest problem that people had with the Wii, and for good reason. It was a bad idea. Friend codes didn't really work out, so thankfully they're going to be fixing that. Another thing that they're looking into and announced is that they're looking into going into the mobile app market. By mobile app, I mean they're actually considering developing for iPhones and Android. I believe it's just iOS, but I might be wrong about that. Right now, the way that they kind of talked about it, and from what I'm seeing about the other stories, is it looks like they're just going to be porting old versions of their games. So, the NES greats, Mario Brothers, Zelda, Metroid, they would go in there. And then eventually, it sounds to me like they also are considering actually adapting some of their other properties to mobile phones only. So that might be interesting to have like a unique Star Fox game that maybe played like Gradius. I don't know. But that's what they're talking about. The other one was, and this, for people who followed me in the Evening of Geekery, this was a very big announcement. I'll get into my opinions more in depth later. They also announced that the Wii U would be integrating Nintendo DS games into their virtual console. Yay! This is a great idea, especially considering that the Wii U is kind of built for it. It really is just kind of a bigger DS. So that's a great announcement. Those are the Nintendo announcements that came out of that, and we'll be discussing them with my partner very soon. The second story that we're going to be discussing today is Microsoft announced that they have a new CEO, and I'm probably going to murder his name, so I probably better bring this up. It's Satya Nadella. He is going to be the new CEO of Microsoft, and this also has a big announcement because what about Bill Gates? Bill Gates is going to be stepping down a little bit at Microsoft. He's going to be taking less responsibilities, it looks like. And the main reason that they wanted to do this, it looks like Nadella both gets the programmer end of it as well as the PR end of it. So he's roughly kind of a Reggie Fils-Aimé, or to some extent, Satoru Iwata for Microsoft. And Microsoft, in my opinion, and I'm probably the only person speaking this, is I'm probably shot in the dark, but Microsoft kind of needed that. They really didn't have a whole lot of software people speaking out and actually knew how to do it. I get that you want to bring up programmers and designers, but when they've been stuck doing the same thing over and over and over for years, and they haven't really been put in front of a mic, it doesn't sound all that great. The perfect example would be the lead designer or the lead engineer of the PS4. He sounded really, really kind of weird, like he had been put into a closet for a couple of months. But hopefully Satya Nadella will be able to do the job and take Microsoft kind of out of the gutter. I hate to say this, but, the holiday season has passed us now. We are pretty much all the big three are in the gutter. Apple's still kind of doing well. Android's doing fairly well. But the big three, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they're all I think going into negative averages. They did not hit any of their goals for console releases, to my knowledge. The last time I looked at the numbers, none of them ever did. So that's an interesting concept, and so Microsoft is taking this direction. Good on you, Microsoft. Maybe we'll be able to start turning around some of the problem decisions that have been made. The other story we're going to be talking about in this hour is going to be Star Wars: The Old Republic. Had a couple of announcements from BioWare this week. And one of those announcements was that we were going to get 2 expansions for Star Wars: The Old Republic this year. Ever since the game went free to play, I know that they have had a little bit of a downward spiral into their player sales and things like that, because a lot of people didn't like the fact that it went free to play. But I can understand why they did that. What they're going to do with these expansions is the first expansion is going to be mirrored kind of like the one they did called Rise of the Hutt Cartel. It's actually going to be bringing in new flashpoints, new areas, probably more levels. They haven't really confirmed that. We're going to get new gear, performance improvements, things like that. Changes coming to the classes, that's a big deal. And then the other expansion that they're talking about announcing is it's going to be a Starship only expansion. I don't know how they're going to make that work, but they said that they're basically going to focus on the Starfighter missions or the Starship missions and overhaul them, I guess, and make them work a little bit better. I've never heard anybody complaining about the ship battles, and apparently this is what they think they need to do. But yeah, these are going to be the stories that we're going to be talking about in this hour. Now, unfortunately, I do need to take some breaks in the meantime. But in the meantime, when we come back, we will have our partner here and we will start discussing some of the major stories of the day, as well as give you an introduction to my new partner for video game reviews. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take this break right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. So in the meantime, while we're actually waiting for my partner to get here, let's just go ahead and discuss some of these stories a little bit more in depth. My opinions on the Nintendo announcements. The health hardware has me a little worried, and unfortunately there's not really much you can do about that. But in the meantime, the other announcements were fairly good. I did like the fact that they were going to be cutting the salaries of the major players. That shows their dedication, that they want to actually make this work. But, I mean, in the meantime, they gotta they've got to pull this through because the Wii U did not do as well as they had anticipated, even though they really were the only console out there that had anything out there really to put up and say, okay, well, we've got this console and we've got like 10 games for it. So in the meantime, that was a really great concept for them to do. But in the meantime, you know, the other big announcements, I loved them. The going to apps was a great idea, especially since that's kind of where they're going, and they've been the kings of the handheld market. So, it's been an interesting year for them, as well as, the final announcement. And I love this concept. DS games are coming to the Wii U Virtual Console. This is a great idea, Nintendo. This is what you should have announced at E3, because you would have been everybody going, holy crap, that's great. But we don't know what games are coming out yet, so I'm kind of hesitant about that. But in the meantime, we are going to go ahead and take another quick break. And after that, we're going to be rejoined by my new partner. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. And let me be the first to welcome my new partner on Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. Like I said, there's reviews in the middle, and so I felt it was best to start actually adding reviews from actual reviewers. So in the meantime, I have Aldo Gomez here with me. He is the Globe reviewer, and I actually did want to ask you, press start to game. That's your actual title for the story, or is that something that the Globe actually asks you to integrate?
No, that's something, when I originally applied, we didn't have any reviews, any video game reviews, so when I hopped on, I started doing the video game reviews, and that was kind of the column title that I accidentally gave to the video game review, so that we've just kind of kept that on since.
Okay. Well, that actually makes sense. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, Aldo. How long have you been doing video game reviews? Is this what you want to be doing? Give us a little bit of background into yourself as a gamer, just because this is the first time people are getting to meet you.
Yeah, so I've been doing video game reviews for about a little bit over 2 years. My first year was kind of on and off, doing for some websites here and there, just kind of freelance writing until I kind of hopped onto the Globe, and it's just been a consistent thing since. So that's what I've been doing for a while, and yeah, it is something I wanna keep doing. It is something I want to build my career off of, but not just video game reviews. I do like to partake of all the nerd fruit that's around.
Perfect. You're right. You're on the right place here.
Yeah. So I mean, video game reviews are one of the things I do want to do, mostly because I want to give it some legitimacy. So the same way that we take movies and we make those important and those are work of art, so that type of thing, that's kind of what I want to help contribute to video games, because it's an industry that's very much still young. It's in its infancy, and even though we have great games like BioShock and Dragon Age and Mass Effect and all those things.
Well, and here's another thing to keep in mind. I mean, you know, there's been a lot of debate about that, and unfortunately, you know, rest his soul. I'm actually blanking on his name right now. Roger Ebert. I mean, it was a big discussion as to whether or not video games are art, and so that's been something that gamers have been fighting for the longest time. I mean, you brought up BioShock. That is a great piece of art, considering, you know, I get that it can't be entirely art because it's interactive,
yeah,
but it is an art medium. I mean, just as much as film is.
Exactly.
So every gamer has been fighting to do this. I mean, so I wholeheartedly help anybody who's trying to make video games as an actual legitimate art medium, because it is becoming that.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And I mean, in the same way that you have games like we mentioned, BioShock, you also have games on the other end of the spectrum. So you have stuff like Duke Nukem.
Yes.
And, you know, those almost take a step back to that argument. But at the same time, you also have stuff, you know, you have like the Expendables, which is just a complete macho explosion fest. And you also
that was just basically to take every 80s action hero and put them all in one movie and have everybody just explode with the awesome.
Exactly. And in that same medium, you have stuff like The Artist, or, you know, those type of things. I mean, they're alike in that sense, that you have stuff on both sides of the spectrum. But video games are so young, so new, that it's kind of hard for people to accept it.
No, I can totally agree with that. Now, since you are a gamer, I mean, what are your, like, I'll let you go about as high as like a top 5, but like, what are your top 3 video game genres to play? Now, I get it, you're a reviewer, you have to play it all, but obviously there are a few there where you hold special sway over.
Yeah. So my top 3 like genres, I guess, in no specific order, would be fighting games, RPGs,
very nice,
and adventure games.
Okay, like point and click adventures, like what Telltale's doing now.
Not so much. I mean, I do enjoy those, but I'm talking more maybe like Legend of Zelda, that type of action adventure type.
Okay,
game.
yeah. Because when you say adventure games, I mean I'm an old fart gamer, and so that actually brings other stuff to mind.
Yeah.
You say adventure, and I go King's Quest and Monkey Island and all that stuff. So it is awesome. Now you did mention that you were a big fan of RPGs as well.
Yeah.
And fighting games. So that actually brings up an interesting concept. So do you watch like EVO and all the big, all the Apex, all the big fighting game conventions?
Not until recently.
Okay.
I recently kind of jumped on the Twitch bandwagon. So when Twitch started coming out with their Friday night fights type things, and they started doing their tournaments, that's kind of when I hopped onto it. I never really paid that much attention to EVO. And I mean, I did watch some of the games on YouTube after the fact, and I did kind of watch, the top tier fighters kind of duke it out, that type of thing. But I never really kept up with it with stats and, which player was doing what and that type of thing. And it wasn't really until Justin Wong came on the scene that I really started paying attention. And I've actually had a chance to meet him too. So.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Mm-hmm. So actually, you said you did watch, that's actually one of the things I'm kind of wondering about with EVO this year. We have a new game and it's fairly balanced. For as much as I bashed Microsoft over the last year, Double Helix did a really great job in balancing Killer Instinct. And so it actually makes me kind of wonder, is that going to be an EVO tournament this year, or are we going to need to wait a few more years for it to be qualified as such? What do you think?
I think it's actually in its format, it's very it's kind of I don't know how to say it. I mean, I do think it does have a chance to be a tournament fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very much, it was made with that in mind. Kind of like the last Mortal Kombat was, where they kind of stepped away from the silliness of it, and they decided they were going to
try to make a balanced fighter.
Exactly, and that's what they did with Killer Instinct. And it does that to the point where where a skilled fighter can have their giant unlimited combos, but against another skilled fighter, there's a way to break that.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's definitely that sense of balance. I do think because of the way that it's being sold, where you have your free roster,
the free to play, yeah,
and you do have some characters that can switch in out if you're not paying for them.
Oh yes, that is a big problem I see in the future for them. If they at least gave like 2 or 3 fighters for people to experiment with, that might not be such a problem. But the fact that you're like, okay, well, I'm not willing to pay the $80 to get every single fighter. Instead, like every month, let's just say you get really, really good with Jago, and then a month later they tag him in for Saberwolf. Well, you just spent a month trying to get really good on Jago, and now you can't play as him.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're willing to put down the money, and that's kind of where I think if there's any problem with Killer Instinct in the fighting game circuit, it's going to be that there's going to be a little bit of a put off from people not willing to do that. But at the same time, if people are willing to put down $60 just to play as Aquaman in Injustice,
yeah, exactly,
I don't see how that could be.
Aquaman, really?
I
did not see that he got announced. Let me guess, it's the Hook guy.
Nope, he just has a trident, a really good trident.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, because I think the last announcement I saw for Injustice was Martian Manhunter, but I did not see that Aquaman got in, and I saw a discussion about whether or not Aquaman should get in, but
Aquaman's been in the game since launch. He was part of the starting roster.
Holy moly. Yeah, because Injustice I kind of avoided just because I knew that it was a retake on Mortal Kombat versus DC, but only heroes, and that's a great idea. And I actually did hear that that's going to make the EVO roster.
Yeah. So
that's going to be an interesting tournament to see, because there are some legitimate guys out there that know how to kick your butt as Superman.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I do fully expect to see, Killer Instinct announced. I think I might be even more surprised if it's not, is because last year Smash Brothers Melee made it into the roster.
Yeah, and up until that point, it had only been at Apex. So EVO had not taken Smash Brothers at all. In fact, I don't think they took any of the hybrids. Maybe Power Stone, but again, that was one of those restrictions where it had to be Dreamcast only because it was the refined version.
Yeah.
But I don't think they took Power Stone. And now you have the possibility with with Brawl comes the possibility of PlayStation All-Stars getting added into there. That's a great thing for those tournament fighters that they actually get recommended or legitimized by EVO.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we went into these. Since we're talking about Killer Instinct, we have to ask the big question, because people who know me, like previously from the Evening of Geekery, know that I don't really have any of the next-gen consoles. I bought a Wii U over the holidays just because there were more games on it. Mm-hmm. Do you have the next-gen at this point?
I don't. I stopped being an early adopter after PS2. I got my PS2 and my Wii pretty much as soon as those came out.
Now, by early adopter, you mean you waited until there was actually a game library for that console before you actually got it. Is that what you mean?
No, early adopter is you get it almost as soon as it's available.
Yeah.
So my PS2, I had it within the year of its release. My Wii, I had it within 2 months of its release, not caring about the library. When PS3 came out, that was one of those things where I waited because of Sony's promise, which Sony promises a 10-year lifespan on each of its consoles. And so far, it's made that delivered. It's delivered that promise. The PS2 kept having games released on it up to like 13 years after its release. PS3 has only been out maybe 6 or 7 years, if I'm right.
Pretty much.
So
we're probably hitting about the 7 or 8 years into the cycle for all three of them.
Exactly. So the PS3 has, according to Sony, has at least 2 or 3 more years guaranteed of life on it.
Yeah, and they still have games coming out for it.
They do. Which is why I'm in no hurry to get it. Because right now, for the most part, you're going to be seeing some lackluster stuff. You're going to see kind of polished tech demos, and you're going to see ports.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing about a lot with for example, Killzone Shadowfall with the PS4. It's a shiny example of what a PlayStation can do with a shooter, but it's still a tech demo, and it really just kind of feels like that. Yeah. Knack, I heard, got a lot of problems with that too, because it's really just what the system itself could do instead of being like an actual legitimate story.
Yeah. And a lot of people did enjoy Knack. I mean, it was kind of a simple. It was kind of like a callback to the heydays of Jack and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot, that type of platformer thing. But it made such big promises, it kind of fell into that Fable effect, where it made too many promises, and then when it came out, it was nothing more than kind of a glorified tech demo. Which if they hadn't been like, it's going to be this amazing thing, I think people would have been just fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been kind of the problem with this current gen or the 8th generation of consoles, is that where Wii U has, a solid 10 games now, it had maybe 2 games that people were legitimately interested in, and only one of them was third party. So that's kind of the same problem that Xbox One and PS4 are kind of running into, and reflected. I don't know if you've seen the sales numbers for all three, but none of them hit anywhere. I don't think any of them hit anywhere close to the benchmark they were looking for.
No, none of them.
Xbox maybe got a little bit close, but the problem also that I've seen with Xbox One is that there's a fairly high buyback rate too. People buy them and then they just take them back because there's nothing there yet for them, and that's just disappointing. Because I'm an old school gamer, and I can remember when the Super Nintendo comes out, you go get it because there's like 5 or 6 games that you already want to play from the get go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of disappointing. While we have you here, are there any, since you are the video game reviewer, and I do want to let people see your chops here, do you have anything currently that you're reviewing that you want to kind of pimp out on the show?
The first review I have coming out for the month, well, actually, the first game I had come out was Kickbeat, which was an online, a downloadable game. Kind of was the same vein of like the Hatsune Miku games or the Elite Beat Agent games, kind of a rhythm tap game. But it kind of combined it with fighting mechanics. So you have your character in the middle, and there's music going around. And you have characters that are circling them, and as they approach, you have to press the correct button in rhythm in order to attack. And so you just kind of keep doing that, different songs, different enemies, that type of thing. So you go from fighting, karate assassins one moment to fighting a gang of lucha libre gangsters the next.
Very nice. Okay.
So the next game I have, which is actually, it'll be coming out in the paper next week, is the Fable Anniversary.
And that I've heard a lot of really great things about. So
yeah, it's a game that visually has not aged well at all. Steam released the DLC stuff on.
Even on the original Xbox, Fable. Like, I played the first 2 Fable games, so my experience is just those. I didn't play very far because, nothing against Peter Molyneux, but they always seem to be very ugly games to me.
They always have been. There are these games where even me, when I played them really, really young, you could tell that it was, looping animations, kind of very rough textures, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 2 and 3 came out that, Lionhead Studios really kind of got their feet on the ground and they knew what they could do, that they actually started to look better. But that first Fable wasn't all that great technically.
Okay.
And now that they've done the anniversary edition, they've had a chance to clean all that up, so it looks good. But you still have a lot of those weird looping animations where you'll see people walking, and if they're on a curve, you can see their feet kind of floating in the air, type of thing.
Okay. So you say animation or anniversary, and the first thing that comes to me is like collection. So it sounds to me like the first 3 games have been put together. But the way that you're talking about it, it's the original Fable, but redone, probably even polished. Is that the case? Or
yeah, it's just the first one. It's more or less of a remaster, of an HD remaster type of thing.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Kind of like what Sony's been doing with a lot of their franchises, except Sony's actually been tackling 2 or 3 games at a time, so they do the entire Jak and Daxter legacy or the whole Ratchet and Clank thing. But Microsoft has been sticking only to one game. So I think it was last year they came out with the Halo Anniversary Edition.
Yes, and they're talking about what is it, Halo 2 Anniversary for Xbox One? Yeah. So okay.
So this is just the first Fable game. So they've cleaned up the graphics. They've redone a lot of the textures, that type of thing, and they've actually remodified the control scheme because it wasn't very intuitive the first time around. When they did 2 and 3, they had a much better control scheme for fighting. And they just pretty much combined both of those.
That I can agree with. Fable 2 played a little bit better to my eyes than Fable 1 did. The only thing that caught me was the story just wasn't all that compelling in Fable 2.
Yeah.
That may have been Molyneux's vision. I don't know, but I do know that the gameplay for Fable 2 compared to Fable 1 was very polished. I'm glad they did that with the original Fable, because Fable had a lot of potential. It was in development for how many years, and then came out on the Xbox and just was disappointing.
Yeah, and because of that, I like to call games that make big promises. I like to call that the Fable effect.
Oh yeah,
which is
that's appropriate.
Which is what Molyneux did. Molyneux made these giant, grand promises that this was gonna, make Morrowind looks like Child's Play and all these things, and it comes out and it's kind of this very simple RPG thing. And
what was the other 360 game that did that too? I'm trying to remember. Was it Two Worlds that said it was going to be like Oblivion on steroids, and it totally like undershot that mark. But yeah, I can totally understand that. I'm starting to wonder, like, you call it the Fable effect. I'm starting to wonder if that should be called the EA effect these days, because EA did not walk. I mean, they got the Golden Poop Award for 3 years in a row. They did not walk away very well this year. Or this last year. Battlefield 4 kind of flopped. Yeah. They had the SimCity debacle earlier that year. But I agree. I mean, 2013 had a lot of that problem where it just seems like a very unfinished game, very unpolished.
And that kind of became a thing where you had a lot of games being released with tons and tons of bugs, but the pay system, so you could buy DLC, so you could buy extra things, those were completely intact.
Yep. Yeah, microtransactions for like Killer Instinct and things like the pay system works. It's just whether or not the graphics are there or whether or not the gameplay is entirely there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, look at all these soldiers walking around in a circle through a house. Oh, but that's okay because you can pay for more soldiers.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can just do the same thing. So that's kind of the problem that 2013 had, was people figured out that microtransactions was kind of the way to go.
Okay.
But they're kind of putting people off because they're so invested in these microtransactions, they're not caring about the actual game itself.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that. So overall, you've been playing Fable, or has it not come out yet? I'm not sure.
No, it's come out.
It's coming out. So or have you enjoyed it thus far?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of the Fable game. It was one of those things where after you get past, the promises of grandeur, it's actually a really nice story about a hero. And it has a lot of things that at the time they weren't. Fable was not the first was not the first game to implement a good and evil mechanic. But it was one of the first to kind of polish it, where you had people reacting positively and negatively.
Sure.
It didn't just affect like your skill set; it also affected the world around you, type of thing.
Yeah.
They also kind of show that an RPG can have a giant history that people are willing to get invested into it, because you could collect dozens and dozens of books, and you could read each of them, and it has such a great sense of humor, that was very much like Monty Python.
Oh, yeah.
So very much that British thing, which makes it stand out from, anything that BioWare does. Because as much as I love BioWare doesn't have that.
Or Bethesda,
comedy.
for that matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
Bethesda.
Bethesda will make all the books, and sure, some of those are very interesting, but one of the things I do credit Fable to is that they actually did try to have kind of a flair to it. They did actually try to have a little bit of humor, which... If you go to, the Elder Scrolls or Mass Effect will have, BioWare RPGs will occasionally have the humor in them, but it's geek-only humor.
Yeah,
and I do agree with you. Fable tried to have kind of that Monty Python flair.
And the thing I love about BioWare is very situational humor, where it's funnier the more you played it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's one of those things I love. And whereas I can have somebody sitting next to me watching me play Fable, and I can go up to this old lady and fart in front of her, and, that'll make anybody laugh because, that's potty humor.
Of course, it's fart jokes. All right, well, very nice. I look forward to seeing that. And if people want to actually see his Fable Anniversary review, you can go to globeslcc.com, and it should be up on the front page, right, under Arts and Entertainment? When the story gets there?
The Kickbeat review will be up this Friday, and next Friday my review will be the Fable Anniversary review. Will hit the website, but it'll be in the newspaper on Wednesday.
Very nice. So we look forward to hearing about that. The other thing that I also did want to talk to you about before we go to a break is just kind of the news story that I know it's a week old, but I did want to bring it up because it is a big deal, considering that Nintendo just had their shareholders meeting and they did not have good news to report. So I wanted to get your opinion on what they kind of announced on what they're going to do to appease the shareholders as well as stay alive.
The two things that they've done that I highly commend has been the fact that they haven't fired anybody. Yeah,
that's actually the first thing I wanted to go over. So the fact that they're going to take all the higher ups and they're going to cut all their salaries just to keep afloat. And they also, I don't know if you saw, but they recently bought back a lot of shares from shareholders, including, and again, guys, if I murder his name, I apologize, Yamauchi-san, the original president of Nintendo. They bought back some of his shares just to get some more money in to work on projects. What did you think about that?
I thought it was a very smart move. It's one of those things I hate about the current game industry, and that's one of those problems that you'll hear with a lot of independent developers, is the fact that nobody really likes to take, blame.
No.
So I thought it was something very amazing when Iwata first announced it, that he was going to, cut his salary almost by half.
That just shows us shows his passion as a game designer.
Yeah, and 2 or 3 weeks later, Miyamoto comes out and he announces the exact same thing, and it's all these, kind of higher up people telling, it's not the people at the bottom. The people at the bottom are doing their jobs. They're doing exactly what we asked them.
Yeah.
It's us up top that are failing.
Exactly.
We're failing our shareholders, we're failing gamers, we're failing, the people below us, so we're taking the blame, we're taking the hit. And I thought that was a very smart, very good move for them.
No, very good.
And as far as, because that's one of those things that a lot of, like Adam Sessler, I believe he said quite a while ago on G4 he said the problem is you don't fire your team, you take those mistakes that your team made, and you raise them better.
Exactly.
You learn from those. So that's one of those things that I was really happy of, and
it's one of the reasons the first entry in a game always has to be kind of taken with a little bit of a grain of salt, because they're still working out the bugs, and by the sequel they've got them polished.
Yep.
So at that point, it's a really great idea. Now, some of the other announcements I just want to go over with you to see what you thought. The announcement that they're going to go into the health market, that they were basically talking about a non-wearable health hardware. It sounds to me like it's the return of the Vitality sensor. What do you think about this? Because this made me kind of cringe.
This is one of those things where, once again, I'll kind of wait till I see it.
Yeah.
They announced a Vitality sensor, and they kind of showed that you could be, you could play your games, you could have that on, and it would affect your game, and we never saw that happen, and everybody freaked out over nothing.
No, all we saw was Reggie Fils-Aimé going, my body is ready.
Exactly.
My body is Wii Fit is it. And that's all we ever saw of it. And unfortunately now all of our Wii Fit balance boards are just, in the closet somewhere. So, I like your idea. We got to wait and see what it actually is. I just hope that Nintendo does not do the same thing they tried to do with the Wii that gamers did not like, which was they were trying to get into the gaming, the family, the health, the education departments all at once. And so at that point, it just seems like you're a little spread thin. So the other announcement also was they are considering doing apps for I believe it's iOS that iPhones are running off of. I don't know the actual term.
It's iOS, yeah.
And then Android. Now, I looked at that right off the bat and said, okay, they're going to port NES games onto it, or they're going to port older games and then later work on actual properties. For example, I thought like Star Fox working as kind of a not a Galaga, but Gradius kind of thing. What do you think?
So that's actually kind of I don't want to correct you. I'm not say correct because I'm gonna correct you. I'm not trying to insult you here.
No.
But Nintendo has said they are not gonna release their games outside of a Nintendo console.
Oh, good.
Ever.
Okay.
So when they say that, what they mean is that they're gonna be doing that as a marketing type thing. So instead of having, so taking Pokemon for example, they're not gonna release, Pokemon Red or Blue on a virtual console on your Android.
Yeah.
But they do have stuff like the Pokédex for the iOS.
Okay.
There's an official Pokemon licensed Pokédex on iOS that you can buy. So that's kind of what they're doing. They're gonna have like a Nintendo news thing, like a news channel that you can download on your iPhone. It'll let you know when new games are coming out, when a demo has come out, give you offers and that type of thing.
Okay.
10% off.
That's
virtual console thing.
That's a very great idea. I mean, the fact that they're just going to make genuine apps. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you corrected me because that was kind of one of the worries I had.
Yeah. So I mean, they don't want to release Mario as a touchscreen game, but they do want to get into that handheld,
make even newer properties with it.
Yeah, exactly. So they want to get into that, but they don't want to release Nintendo games on it because they have a firm belief that Nintendo games should live on Nintendo consoles.
No, and I agree with that. First party stuff should stay first party. Yeah. They want to make first party stuff for Android and iOS. I have no problem with that. Exactly. The other announcement they also had was, and this was a big one for me because it was an E3 question.
Yeah.
The fact that DS games are going to be coming to the Wii U's virtual console. We don't know a library yet, but the fact that they're actually going to take the DS and port it as virtual console to the Wii U. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. I'm personally conflicted on it because one of the things I like about the DS is that a lot of games were made with portability in mind. So you could play those, 10 minutes at a time and then call it good. 10 minutes kind of
And occasionally they'd branch out. So like, for example, the Phoenix Wright games really took off on the DS and then eventually were ported to the Wii.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I'm personally kind of iffy on it because I like the portability of it. I don't like the idea of having to sit in my living room to play a DS game, though.
And I kind of agree with you on that, but like for me, it's kind of the opposite. I want to play really, really good games, and I know that the DS and the 3DS have really good properties. The only thing that kind of puts the downside for me is I don't want to sit, when I sit in game, it's for more than an hour. Yeah. And after a while, you just get that crick in the neck with handheld gaming, and it sucks. So at that point, I do like the idea that I could possibly be playing some of these DS games that I've been recommended so many times on my actual TV screen and get them some justice.
Yeah. Oh, here's the thing, though. I don't think it's actually going to be on the TV screen. It's going to be on the Wii U
I've heard mixed reviews on that because they did say that they're going to split it and make it look like the DS is on the gamepad. The other thing I've heard is that the TV will act as the top screen, so nothing can really be done with it, and then the gamepad will act as the bottom screen. So it'll be interesting to see what Nintendo actually does, but in the meantime, we don't know, and that's really kind of the issue. All right, well, we got to take a quick break, and then I actually do want to go into these other stories with you. So if you got the time,
yes, I do.
Okay. So in the meantime, we will be back with Aldo Gomez right here on Geek News, reviews and opinions after this break. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome back to Geek News, reviews, and opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. And I'm here with Aldo Gomez, the video game reviewer for The Globe. And there actually was one other Nintendo announcement that I wanted to cover because it came out literally yesterday. And you actually did the Pokemon X and Y review. And I love the review, by the way. But yesterday they finally got out their Pokemon Bank. Being able to transfer all of your stuff into this giant bank and pay what is it, $5 a month?
A year.
Or is it a year?
It's a year.
Okay, that's a lot better than I thought. But what is your thoughts on that? That's an interesting app for them.
I downloaded that the moment it was available, actually. I woke up and I saw the Nintendo tweet announcement.
He's not a Pokemon fan at all, is he?
No. And I downloaded it and I got to work.
Very nice.
I mean, I love it. It's a little, I don't want to say counterintuitive. It is a little bit clunky when you're transferring stuff from the the previous generation, so like the XY, not the XY, the black and white.
Black and white and black and white 2, I believe.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough when you're moving your Pokemon from there over into the bank.
Yeah.
But apart from that, when you're working with X and Y, it is smooth. And I love it. It's such a great idea because when you download it, you get a 30-day trial for free. So the moment you activate it, you get 30 free days to decide if you want it or not. And it's nice because you can just use that to maybe just transfer your stuff from black and white and, put them into X and Y. You don't have to renew, and you can call it good if you want to.
And you can take care of you can take advantage of all of the major features of X and Y. You can actually play with your Pokemon and
exactly
and all that stuff.
And they do have a Celebi event where the moment you use it and you log back into your Pokemon bank, they give you a free Celebi to use. And Celebi, for those of you that don't know, is a little onion fairy that you get to use. That is actually its Pokedex description. It's an onion fairy.
Oh, okay. Well, that actually is a little bit more appropriate.
And so, I mean, it works great. It's good, and I'm just kind of happy it's finally there because it's been like 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a while, because I remember the bank being announced at E3, but it was way in the works.
Yeah.
So they already told you, like, right off the bat it was going to be like a 2014 release. Now, the question that I have here is maybe that would be integrated into iPhone or into Android so that you could manage your bank, or maybe even like with the breeders or things like that, you could manage that as well.
I was hoping that, but the way they made it sound was that as soon as you downloaded it and activated it, I thought you could use it on the Pokemon website. Like you could go online to your Pokemon website and manage your library there with keyboard and mouse.
Uh-huh.
But as was the case as of yesterday, that as far as I know from what I've been able to play and investigate with it, that's not the case. It's kind of been strictly on your DS, your 3DS only. So far. So I mean, hopefully that would be a really awesome idea. At the bare minimum, I want it on the website.
Okay.
So just so my hand doesn't cramp up trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of features. I mean, the game itself has click and drag features where you can grab all of them and move boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would like that on the computer. It would just seem a little bit more intuitive. Even if they just keep it on their website, I wouldn't mind, but...
Yeah. That actually goes into the other... And I promise, guys, this is the last Nintendo announcement we're going to talk about. I just wanted to bring this up because it's actually one of the big three saying what they're going to do about the fact they didn't earn a whole lot of money. So bear with me, guys. It's not going to be Nintendo all the time. The last one was finally that they're going to take Nintendo Network and basically make it their PSN or their Xbox Live. You're going to be bound to this on-demand service where your games will be and where all of your services will be instead of being bound to a console. So the era of friend codes is over for Nintendo. Good move, bad move. I think it's just a little late, personally.
It is a little bit late. It's kind of taken Nintendo a couple years to even get their feet on the ground as far as online goes. I mean, when Brawl came out, the online connectivity for that was horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
And it still is, actually.
Mario Kart 2.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where they have all these great series and franchises that would do well online, but they just
and it just makes you cringe when they announce like this new Smash Brothers, which, another Nintendo announcement was the 22nd Fighter got revealed. You just sit there and cringe. You're like, oh, if they don't get rid of friend codes, this isn't going to work. So Nintendo Network, the fact that it's going to do this, that's good news for people, especially since there's supposed to be functionality between the 3DS and the Wii U versions.
Yeah, and I mean they do have stuff like was it not the Mi Plaza? It's this thing that they have. I'm forgetting the name of it, but you can take your Mi. It's kind of like a whole bunch of online forum boards. That's where.
I think I know what you're talking about because it also got integrated into like Mario Brothers U and things like that.
Yeah, exactly, and like they just barely added it on the 3DS a couple months ago. And so you can hop on there, you can comment. That's where they're releasing the Smash Brothers screenshots almost every day. Mm-hmm. So that's where
I think that's actually where they got it wasn't Lucario, because he was announced directly, but the hinting that the other Kid Icarus character, the goddess Palutena, was going to be there was a screenshot from that forum, I believe.
Yeah, and I think she just pops up. They haven't confirmed or denied anything yet, but
of course not.
Yeah, that's
if anything, Pit will be playable and she will be like a secret character, because that's one of the things I've noticed with Nintendo. When they release a Smash Brothers, they don't announce the secret characters. They only announce the ones that will be available right at launch. So that's actually a great thing.
Because I think the entirety of the Brawl roster was revealed before the game even came out. But that's because they had the Subspace Emissary, which was like 4-hour campaign that you could play through to unlock everything. So it wasn't a challenge.
Pretty much.
As opposed to Melee, where you had to play for 120 hours to unlock.
Oh, yeah. It was like 20 hours alone for Mewtwo.
Yeah.
And, ooh, boy, that was frustrating. I actually kind of got happy when they took that away. So those are all the major Nintendo ones. Let's actually go into Microsoft, because they actually kind of backpedaled this week. I don't know if you saw, but they announced their new CEO. It's going to be Satya Nadella. And he's worked both on the PR side as well as on the software side, so he's done both. He can make that sound a little bit better than maybe, one of the biggest complaints I had with the reveals of the Xbox One and the PS4, you brought out their lead engineers, and unfortunately they sounded like, well, they got cooped up in a room for a couple of years, and so they didn't really have any social contact. Nothing against them, but that was kind of the problem they had. Satya Nadella is kind of that same concept, but he has PR experience. So if at this point he sounds to me, maybe not to you, but to me, he sounds like kind of the Reggie Fils-Aimé now of that.
He's a very good. It's a very good idea to have somebody that's been working both sides, but it's also a very dangerous thing for kind of the uninformed consumer, because he's the guy that's going to make even the minor things sound amazing.
Yes.
And that's going to get him sales, but at the same time, that could also backfire and get him a lot of hate.
No, it could. It totally could. I agree with you.
So, I mean, as long as it brings in the sales, and as long as, he's not making promises they're not going to keep, I think it should work out for them. It'll be a very good thing for them.
And then also with the announcement of the new CEO, they also announced that Bill Gates will be stepping down. He won't have as much responsibility over Microsoft anymore. Now, here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people going, well, this is going to affect Microsoft greatly. I don't know if it does, because Bill hasn't really had a whole lot of say in major Microsoft development for a long time. Yeah. He's focused mostly on his charity projects.
Exactly. And it's not like it was like Steve Jobs when, Steve Jobs obviously didn't step down. He passed away. But as soon as he passed away, he was very much in charge up until that point. He was always kind of developing and making things and that type of thing. And
up until this point, Bill hasn't really been in charge of Microsoft for a couple of years now.
Exactly. So Bill kind of has been, I imagine that he just kind of sits in his office, a day a week and going, yeah, that's good. Is it making
pretty
money?
much.
Let's do it.
And all the calls that he takes is like charity. So, good on Microsoft. It really is for all three companies right now. They have to backpedal everything because they got to sell consoles, they got to sell games. In Nintendo's case, it's even bigger because they got to get third parties on board and they don't have the money to pay them out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big, interesting year for gaming as far as I am concerned.
Yeah, well, Nintendo actually, sorry about the Nintendo stuff, but Nintendo actually took...
We're just the Nintendo hour. No.
Yeah, no, Nintendo took a hit from Batman Origins.
Yes.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but the developers said that they're not going to release any DLC for the Wii U because there just isn't that demand.
No, and then there's also the debate of whether or not Watch Dogs. They've said that they're not going to let go of that, but there's debate on whether or not Watch Dogs is going to come to the Wii U.
It would be so great with a touchpad.
And then also, I didn't even know this, but they had unique third-party stuff. Platinum Games was making Bayonetta 2, and Team Ninja was making the Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z game, and at that time, it was Wii U exclusive. Yeah. Now it's PS3 360. So at that point, this is a huge loss. And I kind of agree with Nintendo now that they cut the salaries and things like that because they need to convince people like Capcom, like Square Enix, like Konami to make games for them. Otherwise, that's going to be the major problem that everybody has. It's a first-party system, not a third-party. Kind of like the Wii, strangely enough. And then the final piece of news that we have today that I wanted to go over with you, I don't know how much of a big MMO gamer you are, but a little bit.
Yeah.
But Star Wars or BioWare came out and made a couple of announcements for the Old Republic since they went free to play, and I do know that their numbers have dropped a little bit since they went free to play. They announced that they're going to be doing 2 expansions this year, one of which is going to be more mirroring to the stuff they've done before. So Rise of the Hutt Cartel, which is going to be like new flashpoints, new PvP, new gear, new operations, things like that.
Yeah.
And then their other one is going to be, I guess they're calling it Galactic Starfighter G, and it's going to be basically a ship battle expansion. It's going to be more into what you can do with your ships. Does this excite you at all to go? I don't know if you played the Old Republic before. I kind of did, but not really, and I'm not really all that motivated to go back.
Yeah, I mean, I played it when I was in beta. I was part of the beta testers.
Same here.
And then when they went free to play, I wasn't entirely not free to play. When it was actually released, I wasn't all that convinced. I didn't buy it. And then when it went free to play, I kind of went back to it, and I didn't exactly like their free to play model. Because I think it was like slower leveling, and you don't have access to these things and that. And I was just kind of unhappy with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, the starship battles do kind of interest me a little bit, but probably not enough to go back.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we'll see what BioWare does with it. Maybe they'll excite us enough, but yeah, it just doesn't seem like a whole lot to go back into the Old Republic and all the problems that are there now. But in the meantime, we are actually done for the hour. Aldo, you are more than welcome to join us again for the entertainment hour. Once again, thank you, Aldo Gomez, for staying on. Would you like to pimp a Twitter or anything like that where people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. I do. I mean, I do have my Twitter. It's Aldo531. That's my birthday.
Please send presents too.
Yep. I don't have anything creative like that, but
okay.
I do have that, and I also do write for the Examiner. So examiner.com. Nice. Just go in there and type my name, and you'll find me doing there. I do video game reviews for the Globe, and I do kind of other pieces for Examiner. So one of my last articles was the top 5 YouTube channels to leave you thinking about video games.
Very nice. So thank you once again, Aldo. It's been great to have you, and really, it's going to be great working with you on Geek News Reviews and Opinions because there's lots of games to talk about this year, and so we're very happy to have Aldo on. Coming up next in the entertainment hour, we're going to announce yet another partner that's going to be joining us here. Plus, we have a couple of announcements there. The Super Bowl happened. We've got to talk a little bit about Philip Seymour Hoffman, so that's going to be kind of a downer, but we got to get it done. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy. This is Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
I aim to misbehave.
If you test me, you will fail.
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later.
Okay, look, we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. But I think we can put our differences behind us.
You thought this was over? But we've only just begun to geek out. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, and we are welcoming back Aldo Gomez from the Globe here at SLCC. Welcome back, Aldo, and welcome everybody to the new entertainment hour. It is indeed a new era from going into the evening of geekery for all my fans there to going into Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. For those who are new to this thing, welcome. Let me just explain really quick how the format is going to go from here on in. The first 15 minutes of the hour, we're going to be discussing the biggest news stories of the week. In this hour, it's the entertainment hour. So we're talking movies, TVs, comics, everything geeky that we can come up with, and hopefully not just off the top of our head, because that would be kind of inaccurate, I would think. Then for the bottom end of the hour, we're going to be talking with our new partner, Stephen Romney, who should be along with us very soon. But in the meantime, we have Aldo here to discuss the main stories of the week. And then the final end of the hour is just giving our opinions, like you just heard an hour ago with me and Aldo going over the Nintendo announcements, as well as Microsoft stepping back and saying, okay, we need to get consoles sold, et cetera, et cetera. So in the meantime, welcome, Aldo. It is great to have you back here.
Hello.
All right, so let's just go ahead and go into the top 3 stories. I'm just going to go into detail over them. Obviously, the Super Bowl just happened, and I'm not going to discuss the game because I've heard enough about it, honestly. I've heard it's been one of the biggest Super Bowl shutouts in years. I also know that a couple of family members who are Broncos fans were very stricken with depression after that.
One of my favorite things I saw online was, remember that year with the Cowboys dressed like the Broncos and decided to play for them?
That's actually strangely appropriate. I think the perfect one that I saw was somebody photoshopped and just put in a facepalm thing with John Elway, with how bad it was. So, but in the meantime, the Super Bowl is also a great time for geeks. Why? Because it's basically the football trying to lure us out by putting up really great movie trailers and really great game trailers sometimes. But in this time, we only got a few. I mean, obviously multiple spots, but we only got like a few movie stuff. So we got Transformers Age of Extinction, which got a trailer. Mm-hmm. We had a bunch of spots for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, or as I like to call it, Villain Fest 2014. Just because this may be the point where you and I kind of disagree, Aldo, but oh man, there's too many villains to keep track of in that movie. And then we also got a couple of things for the Need for Speed movie, which I'm still kind of cringing at, because how are non-Need for Speed fans going to explain this aside from saying it's Fast and the Furious, but it's a video game? And then the final one, which got me excited, was Captain America, the Winter Soldier, got a couple of promos, which were really great and also established the introduction of Falcon. Yeah. I love the fact that they're bringing in Falcon because, don't get me wrong, Avengers was a cool movie and you have to have the big greats, but there's so many greats that go under the radar. For example, we're getting an Ant-Man movie. I'm totally stoked for that. The Wasp. Now we're getting Falcon. And so that's a great idea to just bring him in, and then they'll find a way to put him into Age of Ultron at some point.
I'm still waiting for Iron Fist and Power Man. That's all I'm waiting for.
Oh, but supposedly they're actually not going to be coming into the movies. They're getting a Netflix series.
Yep.
So that's going to be awesome, as well as Daredevil. I was really happy that Sony let go of Daredevil so they could do that Netflix series. And I am looking forward to that when it releases. Yeah. But in the meantime, Aldo, did you see the ads at all when they hit live, or did you wait till YouTube?
I was one of the YouTube waiters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was I.
I waited and I saw the Spider-Man ones and I saw the Captain America ones. I'm not, after number 3, I wasn't the biggest fan of Transformers. I mean, I like 3 more than the rest of the series, but I just kind of lost it after that. I'm not the biggest Michael Fay fanatic.
Yeah.
I'm just, So I mean, I didn't see that, and I didn't, I forgot what the third one you mentioned was.
Well, there was Need for Speed, and then there was Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Need for Speed was another one. I heard that was out, and it just kind of went over the top of my head.
Well, it got announced at E3, and literally, when you not got a good idea when literally you can hear the crickets in the EA conference after the Need for Speed announcement. And that's how awkward that was. So I'm just like, oh, they're really going through with it?
Yeah, the only thing I'm really excited for is the lead actor for it, because I know he's from Breaking Bad. I forget his name. But I know he's in there, so I mean, it can't be all that bad.
Here's hoping. I mean, we're hoping that it won't be. My opinions on them, I'll go into a little bit more in depth in the end, at the end of the hour, but, I've only seen 2 of them. I haven't had the time to go look at all the Spider-Man 2 stuff, but I did see the Winter Soldier, loved it, very excited for April when that comes out, and also I love the concept that they're bringing Falcon into it. Yeah. That lesser heroes in the Marvel Universe are going to get spotlighted. Obviously with Avengers we had Hawkeye get spotlighted, and Black Widow. Yeah. The other one that I saw was Transformers Extinction, and here comes the flame right off the bat. I'm not happy with it, especially since Guillermo del Toro just absolutely blew my mind with Pacific Rim, enough so that I actually do think that he should be taking the reins on anything giant robot oriented. And here's the thing. I also know I've seen their rumors right now, but I guarantee you he did it. He submitted scripts to Harmony Gold and Sunrise to do something like a Robotech or a Macross movie here, or doing a Gundam movie here.
Well, I do know that he has credited Robotech as one of his inspirations.
Yes, which one was I believe the Macross one was inspired to the Striker Eureka in the movie. And then also Gundam got credited because the big Russian one with the big fist, the Zaku, was the main design for that. And so I also know that he has submitted ideas to them, and he'd be a great idea for that. But here's the thing. Michael Bay has had his day. Oh. I really want Guillermo to be handed the reins now, especially when, the biggest thing that everybody could talk to me about was, oh, it's Grimlock! No, that's not Grimlock. I don't care what anybody says. That's Michael Bay Grimlock right there. So for all I know, it's gonna be the same thing as we had with Transformers 2 and Devastator, and it's gonna be giant robot balls. Pardon my French here, but that's really what it's gonna come down to, so I'm not excited. Another sad piece of news that we have to talk about this week is...
Are we talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
No,
their Super Bowl
sadly
thing.
we are not. So, is there something that I'm not aware of, or
They didn't have their instruments live for
oh
the halftime
no?
show.
Oh, poor Flea. Maybe we'll get into that next week. We're gonna have to go into Philip Seymour Hoffman because unfortunately a great actor has passed away. He actually had projects in the works at 46, and I don't have 100% of all the details because I've heard it's a drug overdose, it's this, it's that, it's the other. So we're not going to be covering, the death so much as what he had going. So there's been trailers of the upcoming movie that he has inspired by a book, and the name escapes me right off the top of my head. But the other thing also was that he was Plutarch and Heavensbee in Catching Fire. And they had done all of the Mockingjay footage, but he was 7 days before he was done for Mockingjay Part 2. So a lot of people are clamoring and saying, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? Now, the studio might have a solution for this. They don't want to recast, and I agree with them. If they're that far along, you don't recast it. What their solution might be is to limit his contact in Mockingjay Part 2, which I've heard is kind of a bad thing because he's very prominent in that book. The other thing is that when he is absolutely needed, they're going to basically just CG his face. Kind of like what X-Men Origins did with Patrick Stewart, and more recent reference would be The Hobbit doing with Orlando Bloom. And I mean, that's hit or miss. We'll go into that a little bit more with Romney as soon as he gets on here. But in the meantime, we do have to take a quick break. After the break, we'll go ahead and start getting into our opinions on the matter. And Romney will be joining us. Stephen Romney will be joining us, sorry. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. I almost forgot the show. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. I'm here with Aldo Gomez, and we actually, we're still waiting on Stephen Romney to get here, but in the meantime, I actually just realized I forgot to go over the story, so I'm going to go over it with you, Aldo. So this is basically rumor at this point, but Dwayne Johnson has been kind of hinting here and there that he might be cast as Jon Stewart in the upcoming Justice League movie. I have a bunch of issues with the Justice League movie, but we're going to focus on this one. Dwayne Johnson as the Green Lantern Jon Stewart. That's actually a great idea. A lot of people know, who aren't comic fans, know at least Jon Stewart. They may not know Hal Jordan, and that might have been Ryan Reynolds' crux there, is nobody really knew Hal Jordan, but everybody knows Jon Stewart because of the cartoon. So in the meantime, Aldo, what are your thoughts? Is Dwayne Johnson going to be a good pick for this role?
I'm actually really kind of worried because I like Dwayne Johnson. He's actually become one of my favorite people, not just actors, just people in general over the last 2 years. But I don't think he has the body for a spandex suit. He's too big, in my opinion.
You might be right on that one, yeah.
But I mean, apart from the visualness, I think.
And guys, the wrestling outfit does not count. I'm sorry.
he was what, like a one-piece little underwear thing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at that point, people can make the argument of, yeah, he can totally do it because he's been a wrestler for so long. We're not talking about spandex undies. We're talking about like a full-on spandex outfit that's going to be very form-fitting. And here's the thing. Given his wrestling career, he's not really all that active there. So it's not entirely wrong to say he's got a bit of a gut right now.
Yeah. And I mean, in his wrestling career, he was very slim. And I think at that point I would have believed him, but he's bulked up so much. I don't see him, kind of in a slim superhero outfit, kind of like Ryan Reynolds.
No.
If you see the Fast and the Furious movies, he looks great there because he has like military garb. And I thought that looked great on him as, for costume. And if they can stay away from the CG costume and they can give him something, just tons of green.
I think you're going to have to. I mean,
I think he would look great.
Cause the problem is that we all know how CG Dwayne Johnson looks, unfortunately. And, in the wrong hands, he looks really, really bad.
Yeah.
For example, the Mummy movie, his introduction into film. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
That was one of the things they did wrong, in my opinion, with the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. It was a CG costume. And yes, I get it. It's the Green Lantern, but they really should have just had a legitimate costume for him to wear that didn't glow or anything like that, because
didn't blow the budget.
And the other thing also is, how are they going to do things like Jon Stewart is kind of well known for having not a mask, but instead having glowing green radioactive contact lenses.
Yeah.
And is that going to work for, with animation, you can make that work.
Yeah.
Is that going to work for Dwayne Johnson? I don't know if it will.
I don't think it will. I think they'll go more actually the route of actually going back to the Ryan Reynolds. If you look at his eyes in the movie, he has, kind of normal eyes, but his iris and the eye color are green. And I think that's what they're going to stick with. It's a little bit more subtle, and I think it'll work.
Yeah, it might.
But overall, I think the funny part is that we're talking more or less about how he's going to look in the costume rather than how he's actually going to do the part.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of gives chops to his acting ability, because I think he's actually a really good actor.
Well, I don't think anybody can really question whether or not he can pull off the presence of Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
He can totally do it.
Essentially, you just take his character from the Fast and the Furious movies, take away the steroids, and you got Jon Stewart.
Well, and he's played military figures before, and Jon Stewart's background is he's a Marine, so he can totally pull that off, and he'll make that look great. It's just whether or not he's going to fit the role that a lot of people have the question of.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, that's kind of the beef there. I've got a dozen other things with Justice League as a whole. We'll get to those at another time. But in the meantime, we are actually going to have to go ahead and take another quick break. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Next up, we're going to have Stephen Romney to discuss, his introduction to the show as well as his opinion on all these stories. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, boys and girls. And unfortunately, Stephen Romney was supposed to be joining us, but I guess he just kind of got caught up in traffic or whatever. It happens. But in the meantime, we got Aldo Gomez here, and he's got lots to say about the other issues that we had. So, for example, let's get into Philip Seymour Hoffman a little bit.
Yes.
So you said you had some specific thoughts that you wanted to present on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of those last kind of deaths that really kind of took me by surprise. Cause he actually did quite a bit of stuff. And he was such a great actor too. I mean, I think he won tons of awards. I think I'm not 100% sure of that one.
I believe he has, yeah.
But I always remember him from the Patch Adams movie.
Oh, I forgot that he was in that.
Yeah. And he played opposite of Robin Williams, which is kind of a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Really.
Without getting eclipsed by Robin. I mean,
exactly.
Really.
And he was such a great, counter to Patch Adams, because he was his very studious, very serious roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly been one of my favorite movies with him. And I recently just saw the Hunger Games movie, the Catching Fire.
Catching Fire, yeah.
And I liked him in that one as well too.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing: like a lot of the acclaimed Philip Seymour Hoffman roles, I haven't seen. Patch Adams was one of those few cases where I actually have seen it, and I did like that role. Yeah. But I gotta say, given my lack of experience with Philip Seymour Hoffman, we're gonna have to cut that down. That's a lot to say right there. But I actually enjoyed him as Plutarch Heavensbee in Catching Fire. He really set the stage for that role for me. So it's really sad to hear that, he got so much done, but unfortunately he was like 7 days short. So that's really kind of the issue here that a lot of people are having. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What do you think of the presented idea from the studio of basically trying to CG his face in and try and take out as much as they can without hurting the plot of part 2 so that they don't have to worry about, him being there?
Yeah, I want to say I'm not for it, but I would actually prefer that to any alternative.
Yeah.
Because, they have such a huge budget that I think they can afford to make very good CGI, a very good CGI Philip Seymour Hoffman, especially for the Plutarch part. And, I haven't read the third book, so I don't know how much he's in it. But from
I haven't either, but I've heard he's pretty prominent in it.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a major hurt. Now, hopefully, he was 7 days out, or 7 days left. Mm-hmm. So that tells me a majority of his stuff is done and they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's just that last little bit that they have a problem. And I agree with you. If the CGI is there to do that, but, unfortunately it was also there for X-Men Origins, and that was not handled right, I don't think.
Well, X-Men Origins was not right at all.
Talking about Ryan Reynolds.
Right. But yeah, no, but I mean, honestly, I have such confidence. I mean, after what they did with the second movie, and it sticks so well to the books.
Yeah.
I have such confidence that if they put more of him in for the movie, mm-hmm. I'm pretty confident they can take him out. Because if you read the books and you watch the movies, they're such kind of different point of views type of thing.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, you see a lot more outside of, the arena and all that stuff that's going on in the movies than you do in the books.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid that they could scale it back and just kind of keep them CGI for whatever they need. The other problem that you run into is the voice.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have somebody that can really duplicate his voice.
You're going to have to find, the best impersonator ever. Otherwise, it's not going to work at all. The other problem that I could see with it is, I don't want to dwell too much on the CG face, but I do also want to bring up the shortcomings of having that happen. We had CG Professor X in X-Men Origins.
Yeah.
We also recently just had Orlando Bloom, given that you had to show him as an elf as ageless in the Hobbit movies, mm-hmm. even though you didn't even really need to bring him in, period.
Right.
But they did. And that was a little bit weird because I don't know if you had the same problem when you saw The Hobbit, or if you saw The Hobbit,
I've
where
not seen Smaller.
You could almost tell in some scenes there was the mask. It looked like his face was an inch off of his head. And so that's kind of the worry that I have with doing that. A face is so hard to do in CG with all the inflections and all that. You could easily screw it up.
See, and kind of my counter argument to that would be, oh my goodness, I just had it. Oh, never mind.
We're doing it live, everybody. We're doing it live.
Oh, I forgot what movie. There's a movie, and they had to do the same thing. And now that I'm trying to talk about it, it's
hopefully
gone.
it wasn't. Hopefully we're not talking about Face Off with Face Off with Nicolas Cage. No, I don't think that was CG.
No.
Although that was actually another bad example of bad CG when he did Ghost Rider. They tried to do the CG flaming skull. Yeah. That didn't come off very well, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, point is I would prefer the actor, but that's obviously not possible. But,
yeah. Rest your soul.
Yeah, compared to the alternative of, cutting him out a lot and kind of leaving plot holes, or even recasting, I would prefer that to a minimal degree,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have to find somebody who looks, at least as far as body build, looks like him, sounds like him, and then you're going to have to, the bottom line is you're going to have to CG his
Iron
face.
Man 3. Sorry, that's the thing I was thinking of. Because there's a couple scenes, there's a few scenes where Robert Downey had injured himself, and they had a body double, and they CGI'd Robert Downey's face on this other actor.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
And I actually went back to the theaters as soon as I heard that to try to point out which scenes it was.
Uh-huh.
And I think I could point it out because they made a very basic mistake of putting an injury on the wrong side of his face
mm-hmm.
than it was in the previous scene.
And here's the thing, that's one of the problems that can happen with CG is that they're only given so much, and so they have to work with what they have.
Yeah.
CG can't always be Gollum or the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. It can be ooh and ah, but the tiny details can destroy it.
And sometimes it can be Wolverine's claws.
A little bit. just a wee bit. There were a lot of problems with X-Men Origins. Yeah, we'll have to make that a discussion topic. But the other thing also was I'm just as excited for Mockingjay as much as you are. I actually hated the first Hunger Games movie. Bottom line, because it was shaky cam fest. It was horribly done as far as shaky cam goes. And the fact that Catching Fire decided, we're not going to bring this back in. We're actually going to have, the camera kind of move freely with, and they did a little bit of shaky cam here and there in the movie itself, but it wasn't as bad. So I'm not walking out with a total headache at the end of it. So I am a little bit more enthusiastic about how how Mockingjay Part 1 is going to work, and Mockingjay Part 2 right now is really the debate. So hopefully they'll be able to resolve this, and we already know that Mockingjay Part 1 is going to be good as far as Philip Seymour Hoffman is concerned. But in the meantime, rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Our hearts go out to your family, but unfortunately this is just the way it is. But in the meantime, also, just, since we're waiting, unfortunately, for Stephen Romney, and he's not here yet, but that's okay. Traffic happens, guys. It's not a big deal. It's podcasting. What can I say? There is actually one thing I wanted to ask both of you, since I have you here, Aldo. 2014 has a lot of great movies this year coming out. What are you most excited for? Can you give me like a top 3 of films you were most excited for this year?
Oh, I actually could not. I actually don't, because I've been so busy with the video game stuff. I actually don't really keep up with release dates anymore as far as
I can recite a few for you, but
go ahead and throw some out.
Because we've got obviously Captain America: Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. As far as superheroes go, we also have X-Men: Days of Future Past coming out this year. Transformers: Age of Extinction is coming out this year from Michael Bay, but we also have the Ninja Turtles movie he's been working on that's been filled with controversy. That's coming out this year. And then right off the top of my head, we have the RoboCop remake coming out in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Those are just a few of things that are coming out. I also know that you're a big animation buff, and The Wind Rises is due at the end of this month.
Yeah.
From Miyazaki.
I'd probably, out of the stuff that you just named, I'd probably have to name Spider-Man, my number 1 most anticipated movie.
Okay.
Days of Future Past, and after that, the Miyazaki Wind Rises movie.
I'll admit, it's funny because a fan of mine actually did put me up to the task of reviewing the Studio Ghibli movies, because as an animation buff, I'd never watched them. I just hadn't ever gotten around to them. So I've been having a lot of fun going through the Miyazaki movies, and right now I'm on a Takahata film. And so The Wind Rises is actually very cool to me as a prospect, as well as I just barely heard from a friend of mine that it's getting some awards already. Mm-hmm. There's already speculation it might get the Best Animation Oscar from Disney this year. Yeah. So that's a big step.
And it's one of those movies that I'm actually quite interested in, just because of the controversy that surrounded it in its announcement and kind of as it went.
Well, because it's not just Hayao Miyazaki, is it? I think, didn't he pull his son in as well? Who has a lot of bad clout with Ghibli right now.
I think so, but the biggest problem was it's part of the content, actually, because he does talk about these people who were essentially used for, like I said, we're doing this live. It's people.
It's podcasting, guys.
It's women. It's women that were, kind of hired. It's like forcefully hired to pleasure the soldiers during the Second War.
Yeah.
And they make mention of it, and it's part of the movie. I think the main character falls in love with one of these women. Mm-hmm. Because the main character in The Wind Rises is the guy that designed the planes that they used that the Japanese used in World War II. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of part of that dark history that Japan doesn't like. They like to keep that on the hush hush.
Yeah.
Kind of like the United States and, slavery. When we do that, we have to give that movie an Oscar.
Sure thing.
Because we'd be doing a disservice to it.
You know what? The as many nominations as I've heard for 12 Years as a Slave is going to get it. It's got way too many Oscars to not walk away with at least one.
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is like if you put that subject into an American movie, it's going to get noticed.
Yeah, and that's the same thing here with The Wind Rises and Miyazaki. Because
that was one of those things that Japan kind of wanted to keep on the down low. They didn't want that to come bubbling up again. And Miyazaki, a beloved, person in Japan, giant, Japanese personality, puts it in his movie, and they're like, whoa, you can't do that.
But it's also not the first time he's ever done it either. No. Ghibli is known for taking hot buttons and bringing them up. Isao Takahata, for example, I don't know if you've seen Grave of the Fireflies. I've seen pieces here and there, and it's a great statement for the Japanese culture. It doesn't really translate as well over here, but that's just because Takahata is genuinely a Japanese guy, or a Japanese writer.
If you ever really just want to cry for 2 hours, just watch Grave of the Fireflies.
That's why I've kind of avoided it. Everybody's like, you will be so depressed after.
But it is, honestly, it's such a beautiful, such a sweet movie that,
Mm-hmm.
It's a torrent of emotions.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got to go ahead and take our final break for the hour, but in the meantime, we will be back with Aldo. We will discuss the remaining opinions of the stories that came out this week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. All right, welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. And I'm here with Aldo Gomez. Unfortunately, I think Romney was just not able to make it. Unfortunately, it's winter, so traffic's kind of an issue, amongst other things. But in the meantime, we're just going to go ahead and discuss our opinions on the remaining stories of the entertainment hour. And here's the thing, guys. It's not just going to be Romney. You're going to see Aldo on this hour as well. He's got a lot to contribute, especially with animation. You guys just heard us go off on Ghibli. You know, there's a lot to talk about there. So in the meantime, we are very happy to have Aldo here. But let's go ahead and go over our opinions for the Super Bowl trailers. Did it actually get us excited for the upcoming movies that are coming out? Like in my case, for Captain America, totally delivered. It was awesome. But I haven't seen the Amazing Spider-Man 2 stuff, and I'm not gonna lie to you, Aldo, I'm really worried about the movie. Spider-Man 3 really kind of screwed that concept up. And so in a lot of cases I go, five villains? There's 5 villains confirmed now, supposedly from the director. And I'm just like, ugh, there's too many. And you can't tell their stories legitimately. So I was worried about that, and don't even get me started on Age of Extinction. That's, there's just so much wrong with that movie right now.
So I mean, if we want to start off, let's start off with Captain America, which is something that you and I can both agree on.
Yes.
I was not that excited. I was not excited more by the Super Bowl commercials. I mean, seeing the Falcon and seeing the wings and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That was cool. I mean, yeah, but I'm not in it for the Falcon. I'm in it for Cap.
No.
So for me,
Chris Evans is awesome.
Yeah.
Way better than Johnny Storm.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that the highest moment of kind of excitement I've reached with Captain America has been, that last big trailer where they show him in the elevator and he fights, 6 or 7.
Yeah, and
agents.
they actually just barely showed in the promo that it's not just him in there. It's also Falcon is in there too. He's learning the ropes.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm excited enough as it is, and every time they show more of the Winter Soldier, that just makes me more excited because
this is a really great villain to go for.
Because they're sticking really closely to the comics, which when you tell somebody what the Winter Soldier is, people are like,
well, and I probably don't even need to mention this to you. You've read the Winter Soldier, have you not?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the background about the Winter Soldier, and that's the coolest part of it. And they built him out to be this absolute opposite to, I was going to say to Iron Man. I am an Iron Man fan. Sorry, guys. But a total opposite to Captain America without having to have the super soldier serum like they did with Red Skull. So that's a really great and exciting movie. I'm very glad it's not going to be right in the middle of summer. That's one of the things I like about this year is that all the movies are kind of spread out.
Yeah.
So they're not all just clumped together in the summer and then clumped together in the winter.
Yeah.
Now, Amazing Spider-Man 2, you're excited for it.
Very excited.
Now, I'm going to ask you right here, because that's been one of the biggest debates right now for the Spider-Man films. Mm-hmm. Is Andrew Garfield actually holding up, or do we want Tobey back? Because personally, I was totally for Tobey when he did those movies. But Andrew has made his own Spider-Man, and I love it. As much as I want to knock the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I love Andrew Garfield. They picked a really great Peter Parker.
I think he's actually done a much better job as a Spider-Man. I actually think he's a much better Spider-Man, and I think Tobey Maguire actually made a much better Peter Parker, if that even makes sense.
No, that does a little bit.
Because part of my favorite thing about Spider-Man, in the comics and in the TV show and all that stuff, was all the chatter, all the jokes that he made as Spider-Man. Which in the Raimi movies, you hardly saw any of that. His fights were very serious. They were kind of very light-threatening, so he didn't make a whole lot of cracks. Whereas this time around, you had a much more agile, much more funny Spider-Man. I mean, simply that fight in the school with a lizard. There's that part where he's crawling around the lizard and he's making jokes at him.
Not just with the combat, but this is a much more. Here's the thing. Spider-Man is a very lighthearted hero.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that a lot of people like is the joke cracking. And Andrew Garfield kept that up. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about Amazing Spider-Man was that, you're having, these great CG combat moments, and he's still keeping up the brevity here.
Yeah,
and that's awesome.
And
or the levity, sorry.
Yeah, and I was completely sold the moment I saw the first trailer, which was like him in the back of the car as the guy breaking into it. He's like, "Are you a cop?" He's like, "Yeah, the guy in the red and blue spandex is a cop."
Exactly.
So for me at that moment, I was like, all right, I'm sold.
Or even better, I'm getting ready to snooze, poof, and that was awesome.
Exactly. So for me, I was like, okay, this is a Spider-Man I can get behind, and I think he does a decent job as Peter Parker. But I mean, as far as the villain count thing goes,
and you have some big talent too. I mean, you have Paul Giamatti, you have Jamie Foxx. They're all going to be playing off of each other.
You have I don't know his name, but the kid that's playing Harry Osborn.
Yeah,
he was from the Chronicle movie, and he's a very, very good actor.
Yeah, he's the confirmed fourth villain because they're gonna start hinting at Hobgoblin there.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the villain's confirmed, as far as the actual villain contact, I guess. That's been confirmed has been I'm sorry, I kind of blinked out. Electro, the Goblin, and the Rhino.
Yeah, and for a while, I guess they may have dropped one off because I heard Shocker was going to be in this movie too. But they may have dropped that off in order to favor Rhino more because it looks to me like Jamie Foxx and Paul Giamatti are really the ones that are getting a lot of focus.
Yeah.
Which is great, but again, you have to showcase these villains as they are and, give a little bit of origin and then have the reason why they hate Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I mean, and from what it looks like, I mean, this is just my speculation. It looks like the villain that's really going to get the spotlight is going to be Electro. He looks like his origin is very kind of solid. It's kind of an emotional type of thing. Whereas Paul Giamatti seems to have less of an epic.
He seems to be more like he's just, he's a bank robber trying to get his.
Yeah, and it looks like I think more than anything, even though he's being featured, he has a giant rhino suit. I think it looks more like he's going to be used to set up the rest of the villains. So that makes sense. Because they're going to go, okay, so let's
because with Rhino you can actually set up like the I don't know how they're actually set. I think it's the Sinister Six.
Yeah,
because he's a member of it.
Yeah, so it looks like they're going to be like, okay, so we experimented on this, kind of bank robber. He's lived. He works. We can do all these other things now.
Yeah.
So from what it looks like, they teased, obviously, like you said, the Hobgoblin. They've also teased Mysterio a little bit, and I know they've talked about doing a standalone Venom movie.
Yes, they have talked about it. That's the one part that a lot of people are really worried about because Spider-Man 3 did it and kind of did it poorly. So
and the problem with this one, this is kind of my.
And the other thing I've also heard is that it's not just Venom. It's Venom and Carnage that they're going to do, and that already is a problem. They should just do Venom.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, if they do a standalone Venom movie, like if the title of the movie is Venom, or Spider-Man Presents Venom, or something like that, I'm okay with them doing a Carnage because you can easily set up a story where you have Eddie Brock, he becomes Venom, and the symbiote has scratched onto somebody, so halfway through the movie. Eddie finally figures out how to control his power, and you just have the rest of the movie him fighting Carnage.
Exactly.
That's kind of how I visualize it. If it's a standalone Venom movie,
it could be. Yeah.
And the problem that happened with Spider-Man 3. This is what I always try to tell people because I understand the hate, and I dislike the movie as much as anybody else, but I like it at the same time. Is that it wasn't Raimi's vision. Raimi's vision was a Vulture and Sandman movie.
Yeah. And that would have worked a little bit better.
Yeah, and the problem was that Sony Studios.
Sony Pictures, yeah.
Yeah, they were telling them, no, you have to have Venom. People want Venom. You have to do. And Raimi was like, Venom's for the fourth movie. Just let me do my thing. And they told him, well, if you don't put Venom in this one,
Sony basically put the kibosh on him. They said, we're not gonna let you do a fourth movie.
And Spider-Man 3 could have been something very amazing. And pardon the pun. And but Sony Studios told them no. So I think this time around, Sony Studios is kind of stepping away from it, and they're letting the director do his thing because it feels kind of organic because they're not just shoehorning in different villains, they're grabbing specific villains from the Sinister Six.
Yes.
So I mean, if they had announced Kraven the Hunter, at that point I would have been going, no, step back.
Step back.
Let's
build this up in the third movie, kind of thing.
And I mean, if you've ever read the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, they're very much sticking to that universe. Same thing as the Avengers movies, where they kind of stuck to the Ultimates.
Ultimates is a little bit easier to tell than going into the Marvel continuity.
So it's one of those things. They're kind of grabbing so much inspiration from that. I'm kind of okay with what they're doing. The Rhino suit was one of the first things.
Mm-hmm.
The way Electro looks is also copy straight of the Ultimates. Just that type of stuff. So I mean, I'm very excited for it. It feels organic. It doesn't feel as shoehorned as number 3 did.
Very cool. All right, we're actually running out of time, and I did want to get your opinion on Need for Speed. For you and me, it just sounds to me like we're just meh on it. It just sounds to me like a Fast and Furious movie. Yeah. But I do want to get your opinion, because this is going to be a year of 2 Michael Bay movies. We're going to have Age of Extinction and the highly controversial Ninja Turtles movie. But since we're talking about Super Bowl ads, let's go into Age of Extinction. Have you seen the trailer? Did you like it? Or
I haven't. I've actually been very put off by the Michael Bay stuff. I don't like his overly complicated designs. I think it's really bad when you have to stare at something for 20 minutes before you can
figure out what it's actually going to transform into. Yeah. And see, I didn't have an issue with that with some of the bigger ones, but when they got into the twins in 2 and the little remote control race car, and they made them just as complicated to transform, that did not make as much sense to me.
Yeah.
Things like Bumblebee, where you have this big complex car, that makes sense that it should be taken apart piece by piece by piece. But with the case of the little remote control robot and the twins and even RC to some extent, the RC cycles, they looked overly complicated and filled with gray enough that you couldn't really tell, who they were supposed to be representing. Unlike Optimus Prime, where you could still see the red and blues.
Yeah, and my biggest problem was I want to see more giant robot fights. It's not that I don't care about people. I don't care about people.
I mean, let's be honest. One of the reasons people watch Transformers movies is
because of Transformers.
Exactly. It's Autobots versus Decepticons. We didn't need Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I mean, I like Shia LaBeouf. I think he would have been good. I think Shia would have been good if it was just Shia LaBeouf, not his parents, not his family, not his girlfriend problems.
Yeah.
And just you had Shia LaBeouf who kind of gets stuck in the middle. He's the human point of view. And you just have 2 hours of giant robot fights.
Exactly. That's really what they should have focused on, because you still had really great characters developed in the Autobots and Decepticons, and you could have just told that story.
Yeah.
I have my own misgivings about Shia LaBeouf, but that's me. But overall, I gotta say, I'm not excited for it. It's Michael Bay, and I've already kind of pointed things out to people. I am overwhelmingly for giving Transformers over to Guillermo del Toro, because I know he would do justice to that property and to that license.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we actually run out of time, so thank you once again, Aldo, for stepping in. You guys are going to be seeing plenty more from him. Again, he is going to be doing a lot of video game reviews for us, as well as he might step in, for animation and a couple of the other movies that are going to be showcased this year. So in the meantime, we are done. Aldo, you want to go ahead and pimp your Twitter one more time?
Yeah, just Aldo531. You can also find me on Examiner.com. Just go to Examiner, type my name in, and read my articles.
All right, and then for people who want to reach us directly, if you have a comment or a suggestion on how to improve the show, or even something that you think we should discuss, you can reach us at geekyweek@gmail.com. Once again, that is geekyweek@gmail.com. If you want to contact me directly, I'm your host, Adam Mickelson. You can do so on Twitter, which is twitter.com/Drak. DRAK2326. Once again, that's DRAK2326. And in the meantime, we've also got a Facebook page. I'm working out the details on that to get a direct link to it. I will let you guys know as soon as we have that. But unfortunately, we are out of time. So once again, thank you guys for listening in. And also for people who are listening in on iTunes for the first time, thank you for listening with us and welcome to the show. But we are done. So let's go ahead and say goodbye, Aldo. But
bye.
We'll see you next week for more geek news, reviews, and opinions.
Piss, pam, pow.